Welcome back to another one. Got a new project that I'm getting ready here to do, set up to do. If you've seen the videos in the past, or the last few videos, we have Caternix quail, raising them for meat and egg production. Showed you the setup out in the new chicken coop out there, or that's definitely not new anymore. We've had it for 8 months now, but got that set up out there, but we have some quail eggs, and we have excess quail eggs or extra quail eggs. There's 20 dozen sitting here in cartons. And then this is what I've gotten, just collected in the last 2 days, 2.5 days out there. I haven't even counted these, but so there's 20 dozen here. I haven't really advertised a whole lot of eggs yet, because sometimes our egg production is very high and sometimes our egg production is a little low, and we don't quite have enough birds to be able to keep a steady supply on them. So I have a few friends and stuff that do buy some, and we talked to a few people that do end up buying them, just not a whole lot. So we really haven't advertised a whole lot yet for them. So I started thinking of what am I going to do with 20 plus dozen quail eggs. So I figured I'm going to try to make these a little bit more profitable and just do something with them to maybe get rid of them. I said we don't need 20 dozen eggs, and I said I don't have a steady supply, so it's hard to, I could go sell 20 dozen right now in a couple days, you know, whatever, have them gone, and then people wanting eggs and have everybody knowing that we have quail eggs and wanting to buy them. And I mean, it's always a good problem to have, I guess, to have people asking for them or sold before they come out. But they said we're down to just a few birds right now that are laying until the new ones start laying, or the new babies start laying or get mature enough to lay. So for right now, I don't really want to advertise real heavily about eggs, quail eggs. So I'm going to pickle these, and I probably should just do a few or a couple here, you know, a couple dozen or whatever, and maybe find some people who would like them. But at the same time, they're pickled quail eggs. I know a couple of guys off the top of my head I could probably sell quite a few of them to. So we're just gonna go all in and pickle 20 plus dozen. So I'm gonna put them all in this container here that I brought them in out of the garage in, and I'm gonna just rinse them off quick, and then we'll boil, I'll boil them. I'll give you an official count once I get done counting these. For those of you who have not seen Caternix quail eggs or quail eggs, these are Caternix, so they are brown, or like a tan with a brown speckles on them. They're just little tiny eggs. Birds are about the size of a smaller pigeon, or about like a dove, maybe a little bit bigger than a dove. Here, I'll compare it to a pop bottle cap for you. So they're tiny. So that's just a normal, that's a 1 liter pop bottle cap, but there. Of course, these are the new pop bottle caps, are a little shorter, but so they're about the same size of a normal 20-ounce pop or soda, depending on where you are at in the country or the world, whether it's a pop or a soda or a Coke. So, but yeah, that's all how big they are. They're tiny. So I've had a few people that I work with ask about them, and I thought, well, maybe some people haven't actually seen these before. This bob white eggs would be all white, but Caternix are this tan with a brown, and I love the coloration in them. Like this one right here, kind of has a cowhide speckled more on it. They're so hard to get out of here. Some of them are a little bit lighter colored, brown, almost looks like just like there's still poop stuck to it, but it's not. So that's just the color of the egg. But like this one's kind of white on the outside, or faded brown and stuff. But they're all different. Some are really speckled, like speckled paint. If it'll focus. That's all the bigger they are. I said I'm gonna keep putting them in here and counting. I'll let you know here in just a second. All right, so I got them all emptied out and put in the container here. I ended up with 23 dozen and 2 eggs. So I have 2 spares just in case they break, or I want to eat them as I peel them after I hard boil them. I'm just gonna rinse them off and then I'm gonna boil them. These, when you boil these, you put them in the pan with water, turn the heat on, and you want to stir these so it centers the yolk as they're cooking. And then once the water boils, it's 3 minutes. You set a 3-minute timer, boil it for 3 minutes, strain them and put them in an ice bath. They'll peel easy and they're done. So I won't videotape that portion, but I'll show you the portion, the next step after I've hard boiled. All right, so we got them all peeled and jarred. I ended up with 20 dozen jars. I got 1 dozen in each jar, half-pint jars. They fit perfectly. And we had 20 dozen full, or 20 full dozen, and then I think there's like 9 eggs in this one up here. So left over that didn't have enough to make a full dozen. So out of the 22 dozen and 2 eggs we had that we got to boil, we lost a few. They didn't peel quite right, where I rip a lot of the egg white off, or they didn't get stirred. That one didn't really get stirred, so the egg yolk was all at the bottom, so there was no egg white around it. So those ones we either fed to the dog or just ate them as hard-boiled eggs ourselves. Out of these 20 dozen, I'll probably split them half and half and do 10 dozen of each of just a regular pickled egg, and then 10 dozen hot or spicy eggs. Or I might do like 5 hot and spicy eggs, or 5 dozen. I'm not sure yet. Probably 50-50, but I'm not entirely sure. To peel them, I'd use a quart jar here, and I'd put 2 dozen eggs in there, and I'd fill it up with water just the top of the eggs. Put the lid on it and shake it. They peel out pretty easily. I put all the egg shells in this container that I brought a bunch of them in, the eggs in out of the garage. Now I just dump them out on this cookie or baking sheet. I'm gonna bake these, and we'll grind them up and feed them back to the quail or even the chickens. So it took about 2.5 hours probably to peel all those eggs. So don't recommend doing 22 dozen at a time, but I said I think I'd rather do 22 dozen at a time than make a dozen here, a dozen there. At least for packaging them to sell them like that. Making a dozen at a time would take a while. So I'm just gonna bake these, and then I will get set up this afternoon yet, or maybe even tonight, to get ready for the actual pickling process. Alright, I baked these. I just baked these at 350 degrees for 20 minutes and checked them. There's a few wet spots in them yet, so I put them in for another 10 minutes. So it just depends on how many you have. It's just a guessing game. We got a little mini prep processor or food processor, just a little grinder that we grind them up in, and I'm just putting them in a little container for now. Pretty easy though. Don't take long. Just grinds them up. I get it off here one-handed. Don't really take long. Grind them up. Then I'll just mix this in with their feed for the quails, and then if I give any to the chickens, I just free choice that to the chickens, just put in a little container in there for them, and then they only eat it when they need it. For the quail, I just mix it. No exact measurement. I just mix a little in with their feed. And they'll kind of eat it if they need it, like a chicken would, as a free choice. But rather than making an extra feeder for the quail, it's just easier to mix it in with their feed. It'll still be in the bottom of the feeder if they don't want it. And they'll get to it eventually if they do need it. So it doesn't take very long for this process, but I figured I'd show you how we're doing it. There's a lot of, you can break them up by hand. Or they don't. Break them up by hand, you don't have to have one of these. You can put in a blender too. So they're pretty easy to break up by hand though. You just pinch them and mix them up and they break up pretty easy, but if I have a large batch, this is how I do it.